My name's Anavic Pascarella. Used to be Garcia. Don't look like it, but Pascarella is more suiting for me.
Okay, awesome.
Where I was born at is Jackson Memorial Hospital down in Miami. So I guess where all Cubans go to have babies when they don't have insurance.
Okay, and when's your birthday?
My birthday is April 24th, 1989.
Okay. Any stories you have about when you were born?
When I was born, my mom said I was about a week late. She thought I was a boy the whole time. Up until the 40th week, they did an ultrasound and told her otherwise. She was pretty upset about it. And then they had to come up with my name at the last minute. And her name's Ana Maria Garcia, and my dad's Jesus. Not fitting. But they were arguing about calling me Anavic, or like something, because I was going to be a Luis Manuel Garcia. And
hi, Luis.
Yeah. And my dad had a cold and he was putting Vicks Vapor Rub, and he jokingly told my mother, "Oh, what do we just call her, Anavic?" And my mom loved it, and yeah, typical Cuban. I'm not Russian or Yugoslavian or anything. Just got named after Vicks Vapor Rub.
Okay. That's a cool story.
Yeah.
Well, your name was going to be Luis?
Luis, like my grandfather that died exactly a year to date before I was born.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Now, what's your father's name?
My father's name is Jesus Manuel Garcia. I think there's been some skeptical debate whether it's Jose really in Cuba or not, but Jesus is what I've always known him by.
Okay. And where was he born?
The origins exactly where he was born is unknown, but he was born somewhere in Cuba, and he is one of those Marielitos. He came on the Marielid back in the 80s.
Can you explain what that means?
I think from my understanding is that there was a boat that they used to empty out like the prisons and the psych wards and get rid of the people that Castro wasn't really fond of out of his island. And he dumped them off onto the shores of Miami. And they had to figure out how to make a living for themselves back when the wet foot, dry foot policy was enacted, and they were automatic citizenship once they reached America. So that's how my dad got here in his late 20s.
Okay. And what was his occupation?
He didn't really have, my father's occupation was not any really. The only job I've ever known him to have was like a car wash guy. Like in Hialeah, he'd wash cars and I sit on the edge and I just watch him wash cars. But when he wasn't working, he's just causing trouble. So my mom was the money maker of the family.
So what do you mean causing trouble?
The trouble, he suffered addiction and mental illness. So Xanax was his go-to addiction, and then obviously the way he was prescribed Xanax was through his mental illness, and he played on the emotions of his family members, like my mother and myself and my sister, and dragged us through the mud with his hypochondriac tendencies, suicidal attempts in order to be abused of the system so that he can be admitted into hospitals after his suicide attempts that, they were never meant to be successful. So he could be in the hospital, get a rise out of all of us and get his Xanax, and then be out by the third when he got his, what I later found out was he used to get a disability check for his mental illness.
Mm-hmm. So when you said running through the mud, right, run through the mud, mm-hmm. What does that mean?
So I noticed, and everyone noticed, that my dad would drag us through the mud because he would realize that we would all be so distraught every time he tried to commit suicide. And he just thrived and loved this attention of everyone dropping what they're doing and, begging for him to stay and all this stuff. And we kept doing this over and over again. Sometimes we would go through this process 2 or 3 times a year. Every time he tried to commit suicide, which was either by swallowing razor blades or drinking poisonous products. And what would happen was that my mom kept doing it. My sister got over it very quickly because that's not her dad. And so I got to the point where I was old enough to realize what he was doing, and me and my mom kind of fell out of his routine, and it started happening less and less and less. So, and then they got a divorce when I was around 11 years old.
Okay. Now, what's your mother's name?
Her mother is Ana Maria Garcia. Well, Rodriguez is her maiden name. Then she was a Rios, and then a Garcia, and then a Torres. And that's where she's at now. And I don't want her to marry Roger because she has bad luck. She's a Kardashian. But she could be a Cabrera pretty soon.
Describe that she has bad luck. What do you mean by that?
My sister's father died before I was born. I'm like the youngest by 7 years from my sister, so I just have people's stories. So my mother's luck usually rolls into, with my sister's father, he was sort of a drug dealer, Cuban as well, or into the drug scene. And what I heard was that he was like tied up to a chair outside of a nightclub and shot dead. And didn't show up to one of my sister's birthdays. And then when it was brought up, like, oh, well, he's not even here for her birthday. And they're like, oh, you didn't know he died? Like, my mom didn't even know he died the day he died. So that's how absent he was from my sister and my mom's life. And then my dad, she calls it 13 years of hell with her marriage because of his drug addiction and his mental illness and the abuse that he put my family through. My family pretty much shunned us. I became the black sheep because it was unintentionally my fault for being born that his existence even had a presence with the family. So she got very disconnected from the family. My sister emancipated herself from the family when she was 16 years old. And it was just me and my mom. And then my mom was afraid to leave him because of the whole custody situation and the threats that he would make, that he would kill her or anything like that. So she wanted to make sure that when she left him, it was a 100% separation where she wouldn't have to share custody. So an incident happened when I was 11 years old. And I basically said, why don't you divorce him? And she said, thank you. And he was gone. And then my stepdad, which I feel like is my real dad, next to Roger currently, got multiple myeloma several months or a year or two into their relationship, and several months after that he passed away. It was a very ugly battle with cancer that he died, unfortunately, from. And then now she's been with Roger for 10 years, and it's been going great. We had a scare last year because he got diagnosed with cancer, but it ended up being very contained and able to be treated. But Roger's actually her high school sweetheart that she dumped back when she was 21. And she always talked about this guy, Rogelio. And I was like, whatever, because your mom's like in her 30s or 40s talking about her high school sweetheart. You never think that they'd get back together. But my grandma found him in the grocery store and in Hialeah or Miami or wherever, and she gave each other their numbers and they ended up getting back together.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned something that was an incident at 11.
Yes.
What was the incident?
So when I was 11 years old, my mom always worked her butt off. Like, she didn't have a college degree. She was not very educated in order to specialize in anything or any particular skill set. But my mom always worked in all my schools. She was a school crossing guard, the cafeteria lady, the front desk lady, the teacher's assistant. I mean, I was with my mother 24/7 from kindergarten till she went to my prom with me. She went to grand night with me. If she dropped me off at Movie Co., she wanted to know the time the movie started, the time it ended, and she'd circle Movie Co. for 20 minutes. And if I was running out the side to go to McDonald's with my friends, she caught me and told me it was time to go home since I lied. Like, my mom was on her stuff. She worked at the hospitals afterwards in the cafeteria. So my mom was like 24/7 trying to provide the best that she could, and my dad was una porqueria, right? So she left me with him one night, and he got on one of his, under the influence situations, and he started cooking something, and I'm 11, so I feel like my memory is kind of foggy from all the trauma that I kind of don't remember things clearly, and I think my brain's done that to kind of protect me. But I just remember he was cooking something, and I remember he was putting something in it that I'm not supposed to eat. And I remember him yelling at me, which he never does. He'd yell at everyone but me, that I needed to eat the food. and that there was money in a speaker in the garage and that I needed to go get the money for him, and we don't have a garage, and I didn't know what he was talking about, and he kept yelling at me. And so I called my sister, who we were kind of disconnected from because she had emancipated herself, moved on with her grandma, had an older boyfriend at the time. But she picked up the phone, she came, her boyfriend who was older at the time came over and was messing with him, poking fun at his high and keeping him entertained. While my sister went and called my grandma and my mom, and they came over, and it became this big ordeal, and it was a huge fight. And I just went outside and I said, why don't you just divorce him? And she's like, thank you. And he was gone. All he had was a van packed full of stuff, and didn't have to deal with him until on my own accord, and I had a cell phone that he reached out. So yeah, he's only had my cell phone number. And for a long time, when he was younger and stronger and more threatening and more capable of traveling, I've always let him kind of just communicate with me via cell phone every once in a while whenever he wanted to call me, because I didn't want him coming to my mom's house to look for me, because he'd always threaten to hurt her. So that was my way of protecting her, just letting him just get whatever he needs out of talking to me, so that he could just stay over in the Miami-Dade side and not bother us, and not bother my mom or my sister anymore.
Yeah. Where was she born?
My mother was born in Havana, Cuba, and I think the way my grandma described it is they were a part of the lottery. So they got a plane ride to New Jersey, and then they went to that church that's in Miami where they did the service for Celia Cruz. So they did the traditional route of coming over from Miami, from Cuba to Miami.
Yeah. Siblings, you kind of alluded to some of the siblings you have. You mind sharing how many siblings you have?
So I have a half sister, but she's a sister because she's from my mom. So, and she's 7 years older than me, and I'm 30 right now. So she's got to be 37. Her name's Yurika. My mom has a thing with picking unusual names. And then I had two stepbrothers with my first stepdad, which were Andresito and Albert Jr., which I don't really communicate with anymore. We kind of just fell out of contact. And then I have my current stepbrothers with Roger, and it's Junior again. And these Cubans and their juniors, and Chris, and they're pretty awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about your dad? Mm-hmm. When was the last time you heard from him?
Probably last Sunday or the Sunday before that was the last time I heard from my dad was probably last Sunday or the Sunday before that. He usually tends to just call on Sundays.
How has the relationship with your dad influenced you with your relationship with other people?
The way that my dad's relationship has influenced me with the way I have relationships with other people is basically I'm a hell of a lot more empathetic. I have this understanding of what it's like to feel hurt and abandoned and lied to. My dad would basically tell people that I was dead to get Xanax. So say, oh, my daughter died, I'm depressed, I need Xanax. And it's okay saying it before, but now that I have a daughter, it's how could you ever say that your daughter is dead? It's hard to verbalize that in order to get some medication. So that's built a great deal of empathy where I know in South Florida it's kind of hard, weird to be helpful and nice to people. So when people you're trying to be nice and helpful to people, they're kind of what are you trying to get out of this situation? But I'm just naturally just I don't want people to be on the streets. I don't want people to hurt. I don't want people to have a need or a void. I have a natural empathy where I just want to help people. But at the same time, I have this, I've been hurt so much that I have this natural, I know you're bullshitting me. Don't lie to me. I'm not an idiot type of I'm from one spectrum to the other. So I have a lot of relationships where either you love Anavic or you hate Anavic. People see my heart, or they've tried to take advantage of my heart, and then they hate me because they can't break me type of ordeal. So that's kind of been where I stand when making relationships with people. I just have this, there's no in between with me. Either you're all in with me or you're not, because I've called you out on your crap type of deal. So and then what do you call it? And so then empathy, trust, I had a lot of trust issues, and I've just learned through time that sometimes you just gotta give people trust, but take it away very easily. Like, you know, because then you can't build relationships going in and not willing to trust initially, but just don't give too much trust. So finding a balance of having trust in people, and then third, probably like chances, giving people chances and realizing people mess up. And so I heard someone tell me, don't work harder than the person that needs help. So, you know, I've always carried this guilt, like I'm his daughter, I should be forcing him to get right, I should be working on him, it should be my life ordeal to just be there for him and make him an outstanding citizen and make him a dad. But then someone said, don't work harder than the person that needs help. Like if they don't want to help themselves, then that's me. Like if you're not willing to put any ounce of work into improving yourself or fixing the situation you're in or realizing that you have an issue, then you're on your own. But if you come to me and you're like, Anavic, I have this problem, I'm gonna go to therapy, I want it fixed. And I'm like, okay, let's do this. Like I'm with you, and I'm gonna give you all the resources you need, and I'm gonna hold your hand through it. So it's like, like one spectrum or the other.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up anywhere my mom could get a roof over my head. Initially, I remember living off of Okeechobee. I remember living off of Miami Springs. I remember living in my grandma's house. I don't want to say we were homeless, but we weren't like stable up until I was like 9-ish when she got a house in Miramar, East Miramar. But before then, it was like wherever we could get a hotel room for the night, or wherever. And whenever my grandma was in a good enough place where she would allow my mom to come in with her kids and deal with my dad's crap. So it was back and forth until 9 years old. My grandma finally sold her house in Miami Springs, so that was no longer an option. And my mom had to figure it out. So I think my grandma may have helped my mom get the house in Miramar. And then like my dad lasted about 2 years there before the divorce happened. And then my mom still is in Miramar. And I grew up there and met Mike, and then got forced to go to Alabama, and now I'm in Sunrise.
Right, so that brings me to the next question. Describe the house you grew up in.
Okay, so the house I grew up in, well, my grandma's house, which is like the main one, is like your typical, Miami house. And she had like the edificios where like she had the house split into 3, and like she had like a 1-bedroom little edificio on each side of her house, where it had a little kitchenette and a bathroom and a 1-bedroom, and we would either live in the edificios or we would live in a hotel room all crammed into a bed, or the famous van, like the creepy van that people like stay away from. Like we had one of those vans, no seat in the back. I remember like if you wanted to pee while you're on the go, you just stick a funnel on the floorboard in one of the holes and just pee on the go. So we made it happen. And then, but then Miramar, we got our nice little Broward County 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, 80s builder's construction. Mom's working on repairing that now. So yeah, just kind of everywhere.
So you lived in a van sometimes?
Sometimes. I feel like, I don't remember sometimes I don't remember ever sleeping in the van, but I remember the van being a very big part of my childhood.
Describe the van.
The van was like this. I got made fun of by my brother-in-law because I called it a Castro van. I think it's called an Astro or Chevy Astro, and I called it a Castro van during one of the family dinners. But it was like a Chevy Astro blue van. Didn't have all the seats in it, and I had a dog growing up, and her name was Jackie. She was a Labrador. I had her from when I was 3 years old to the day after I graduated high school, and that dog went everywhere with us. And when we stayed in a hotel that didn't accept pets, she slept in the van. And I was devastated when she passed away, because I said she was like, sorry, Jerica, I said she was like better than my own sister because she stuck around to the very last day of my high school career. So.
What was the name of the dog again?
Jackie. She was black with little white patches. My dog was black with little white patches. Her name was Jackie.
When did she pass away?
Jackie passed away the day after high school. We had to put her down. She just wasn't getting up anymore. She was just an old lab.
Describe the games you played as a child.
The games I played as a child were your like typical non-electronic needed games. There was Duck Duck Goose and Red Light Green Light, and the older guys would ride their bike and I'd be stomach flat on a skateboard and they'd just put their foot on my back and they'd like ride the bike and then launch me into the mailbox. And I remember we used to get that pole at Walmart, and my biological father made that cement circle in the grass to put the pole on so it wouldn't kill the grass, but the cement circle killed the grass anyway, so it was like a moot point, and it's like rougher. But we had the pool every summer, and obviously the swing sets outside, chasing each other on the grass, like getting itchy. Basically whatever you can figure out to do. And then Nintendo came along. There was Super Mario Brothers. Barely played video games. I never got beyond like Super Mario Brothers or Donkey Kong, but that's about it. It was like super simple entertainment growing up.
Okay.
If I had to describe my childhood in one word, I'd probably say absent. I would say my childhood was absent because it lacked a lot of what childhoods should have, like family trips and family dinners and traditions and like fond memories and physical affection, and I felt like it was more of just always a constant struggle. You know, like one time I came home from school and there was like blood on the floor, and you know, my mom's like, go play outside. You know, and she's like scooping up my dad like usual to send him off to the Palmetto, and they have to tell me this stuff, and then I have to go visit him on the weekends in a psych ward. Like, spending a childhood in a psych ward visiting your dad is like, it's not a childhood. So I feel like the concept of what a childhood should be, I didn't live it. So my childhood was absent. Didn't get to have one really.
What sort of things did your family celebrate?
No. The celebrations that my family would have were like the typical Cuban ones. So Christmas Eve was like up there. But I celebrated more Christmas Eve now with my mom's, the stepdads that I've had. So I used to go to my aunt and uncle's house, which I don't have a relationship with them anymore. My grandma would have us go there, and we would celebrate like the holidays, like typical food and presents. And once you don't believe in Santa anymore, you open the presents in the evening after dinner instead of in the morning. I know that when I was little, I was always like thinking outside the box, and I told my mom, like, everyone always gives Santa cookies. And I'm like, what about the reindeers who have to drag his big self around? Like, I'm gonna go get grass from outside and put it on the plate with some carrots so the reindeers have something to eat instead. I'm sure he's only getting bigger and heavier throughout the night. So that's about the only traditions. And then going to Triangle Park in Hialeah, I remember that, with the little like wood houses and like little Christmas displays. I remember going to Triangle Park every year in Hialeah for the holidays. And I think that's about it. We don't have any other traditions besides like Christmas time.
Okay. What were your family's attitude towards alcohol and smoking?
My family's attitude towards alcohol and smoking. Alcohol wasn't really a huge influence in my life. Wasn't really much of an issue. I think alcohol in the Hispanic culture in general is like totally normalized. Like, if you wanted to try to drink as an underage person, they let you drink and get drunk. And I know that one time I blacked out drunk at a Christmas party, and my mom just waited for me to wake up and laughed at me and said, "Oh, you're gonna do it again?" I don't think so. So that's kind of our Hispanic attitude about alcohol. But smoking, I know that there was a lot of marijuana, which in my opinion, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. There was a lot of marijuana use, and I don't think that my biological father was actually a heavy smoker, 2 packs a day. And I was a very sick child growing up, like lots of sore throats, lots of bronchitis, lots of doctor's visits. So the smoking was, I feel like, just normalized for the culture that you grew up in.
What was the discipline like at home?
Well, discipline in my house was like probably most of my childhood. That's probably like the second word to describe my childhood, next from absent to discipline. I mean, there was always discipline. I was always getting my butt torn up growing up. And to the point that one time I developed a nervous twitch and I had to go to a neurologist, and they did I want to say the EEG is what they call when they hook up the electrodes to your head to see why I was doing a twitch, and the twitch would like look like this. I'd do that all day long. And the doctors basically told my mom there's nothing wrong with her. She's just nervous or scared. So you just have to eliminate that. And then you could probably resolve the twitch. So, yeah, my mom's like, tells my sister, you gotta stop hitting her. My sister's like, you gotta stop hitting her. So it's like, both of y'all have to stop hitting me. It was one of those, like, if you said what, like, Anavic, what? Boom, right in the mouth type of growing. Like, you couldn't say what. You couldn't bring home a C from Spanish class. I got Halloween trick-or-treating taken away from me one year. Lots of timeouts. My timeouts were like, if you talk, your 15 minutes is gonna start over. Sit in the chair and don't talk. And that's very hard for me. I'm a talker. So lots of discipline. And then like as I got older, my mom was like sort of in that defeated mom mode where like she's not gonna stop talking. She has an attitude. And the teachers were always calling, and then so she got to the point where like, unless she kills someone or like hits someone, don't call me anymore. She's your problem for 8 hours of the day. Leave me alone. So then that led into me eventually ending up in anger management and counseling around at high school time. My mom was like, all right, you need help. Thanks, Mom. That's part of your fault. I need help. Everyone in my family's fault. So discipline was basically like second descriptive word to my childhood. The strict person at home was my mom because she was like the only mentally sound person. I mean, she was conscious. She had to play all the roles. She had to worry about everyone and everything. She had 3 kids, not just me and my sister. She had my dad to take care of. So she, I think mentally had no other option but to be strict. Constantly having to work from morning to night, never having any personal time for herself, never having the satisfaction probably or the verbal acknowledgement of all her efforts because we're kids and all we can do is complain and not appreciate what she's doing until we're older. And then, my father just like verbally and physically abusing her. And then all the personal stuff that she's gone through in her life. I mean, I don't know the details of, but I know that she's gone through stuff that she doesn't want to share with us. I think my mom has just, she's just in the strict attitude because I don't think she has any other choice. I think that's her survival mode. Like, she just had to do it. Now that we're all out of the house, she's not like that anymore. She's a lot more calm. She's a lot more regretful about how she probably spent her time mothering us. And I always have to remind her, like, just stop living in the past and stuff like that, because we're all fine. We're all doing great. I mean, it wasn't ideal, but we're all alive and we all came out perfectly fine. Nothing a little therapy and and hugs can't fix, I think.
So, what would you tell your mom about your experience growing up right now?
I've told my mom in therapy before, and I've told her before, and I don't think she ever listens. But if
you want her to get it,
if I wanted my mom to get it, like just like listen to what I say about my experience growing up as a child, like stop worrying about it. Like when you worry about it, I worry about it. Like I don't want my mom to hurt, and I don't want my sister to hurt, and I don't want my grandma to hurt, and I don't want to like not be liked, and I don't want them to know that it affected me. But if we keep talking about it and dwelling about it and comparing the past to the present, and it just never goes away. And I just want it to go away because we're all fine. Everything's fine and we're gonna be fine. And we can't enjoy the present or the future if we keep bringing up the past. I just want my mom to know, like, there's nothing she can do about it, but it doesn't matter at this point because we all still love her. And we all still think she did a great job. At that moment, we probably said some things that we regret. I know that I probably threw an "I hate you" out there once in a while. And I'm going to dread the day that those words come out of my daughter's mouth towards me. And I know karma's going to come and bite me in the ass, you know, but it had no meaning or no value at that time. The things that me or my sister or my grandma or her brother, who's an asshole, said or did, you know, at the time, like, it doesn't matter. What matters is like who's still around now. And you know, like, even like my sister was like, growing up, told my mom, like, I will never let her watch my kids. My mom's watching her stepson every weekend now. Like, like, don't worry about it. We're all full of shit. Like, so we all say things out of anger. We're Latin. We're explosive. We have so much fire. And so my mom just needs to just get it. Like, just like enjoy what you have left, because we're like, we love you and we're happy, and we came out perfectly fine and smart and married with children, and, you know, we're not in the same situation as my biological father. So obviously you did an amazing job of making sure that we came out more like you, which there's nothing wrong with you, and more and less like him. So I know you probably think there's 100 things wrong with you, but there's nothing wrong with you. You did the best you could with the amount of education and knowledge and love that you can give at the time. You know, you gave it 100, and it's like, I know that my 100 may be different from other people's 100, and it may be different from my mother's 100, because I have more education, you know, and my higher education has led to more finances and more opportunities for me, but I wasn't capable of obtaining that 100 without, that's my pumping alarm.
It's okay.
I wasn't capable of obtaining my 100 without my mother's 100. Like, my 100 wouldn't have ever been possible without her giving her 100. And you could only build each other up from that. So someone had to start from the bottom in order for us to climb on top of one another. So it sucks because she had to spend her lifetime so low so that her daughters could get a higher opportunity, which is probably like the American dream to any Hispanic who comes over to the United States, you know, because you come with nothing and you think you're like falling short of providing, or like emotionally or materialistically, but you're not. You're doing the best that you can every day, and you wake up and you try to like push the dirt under your children's feet so that they can reach the top that you couldn't reach, you know? Someone's got to do that job, and that's what now as an adult, that's what I realize what parents are for. So I want my mom to like realize that, like, stop worrying about the past and just reap the benefits of all the work you've done. You don't do that. You don't wake up and like look at your daughters and say, wow, they're doing so great because I busted my ass. Like, and I went through all these problems and these traumatic incidents, and they're fine. And when I die, they're gonna be fine, you know, because I did that. Because despite husband number 1, 2, or 3, or, you know, living in a van or whatever, I still got them to school, and I still put clothes on their back, and I still made sure they were fed and they stayed alive, and they were able to just get out into the real world and become their own human beings. And that's what my mom just needs to come to terms with. Like, just accept that how we got here may have not been ideal, but we're here and we're doing great, and it's all because of her resilience. Like, it's not an ideal story for her either, but she's the most resilient person I know, and that's probably led to my resilience, because I wake up sometimes and I wonder, how the hell did I get through some of the situations I got through in my life? And it's like, my mom did it, and her story's worse than mine. So, I mean, there's no excuse. My mom didn't have an excuse, I can't have an excuse.
Where did you go to school?
I went to school, kindergarten in Miami Springs Elementary, then Sea Castle for a couple months, and then Lakeside Elementary, and then Walter C., Renaissance, and then Everglades was my high school. And then I was pretty upset about Everglades. I was supposed to go to Miramar, but I went wherever my mom worked. And then I went to college at Miami-Dade College, and I went to the University of South Alabama because that's where I got stationed with Michael because of his Coast Guard career. And he said the only way I was going with him to Mobile is if I went to school, because he knew I was going to get bored, and he didn't want to have that typical Coast Guard story where, like, you bring your girlfriend with you and she hates the place and she hates you and you break up and she moves back and you're stuck there by yourself. So he's like, I know you're goal oriented, so you need to come up with a plan as to why you're coming before you come with me, because you need to have something to do, because there's nothing to do in Mobile, Alabama. He was right. It kept me very busy working on my bachelor's degree.
Were there any teachers you disliked?
Were there any teachers I disliked? All of them. No, I'm just kidding. All of them. Most of them. I can name in like on one hand all the teachers I loved out of all the teachers that I've ever had, and then all the rest of them I feel really bad for Aviana's teachers because I feel like some people might get mad. I feel like a lot of teachers fall short. Like I think there needs to be more preparation for teachers. Like, you know, some teachers may not have children or may not have traumatic incidents in their life, and they try to make big deals out of nothing, or they don't know how to push a child who may be less motivated and less focused. And I was that child. I had bigger problems at home, you know? And there's just some teachers who don't understand that. I was the type of the child that I took a book and I like skip class. I read the objective on the corner of the board and I skipped class and I did my homework and I read how to do it. I checked my answers in the back of the book. I did my homework and then I went and I hustled. Whether I had to go sell candy bars to help my mom out or do whatever I had to do. Like, I always had to work. You know, I did my education here, I did my little side hustle there, and I was never really focused. I could never sit in a 45-minute class and have someone tell me what to do, or an hour and a half class to have someone tell me what to do. I had to be everywhere doing something all the time. And some teachers kind of saw that as being rebellious, or I had a teacher tell me that I should just drop out because I'm never going to grow up to be anything, you know? And it's just like, woman, you don't even know. Like, you don't even, like, you think a bad day for you is a nail broke off your finger, like. So a lot of teachers probably need a course on dealing with children who have probably some signs and symptoms of, you know, mental differences, illness, or, you know, troubles at home, and how to not, like, I heard like there was something now that kids can only answer the question one way, or it's wrong. Like, I feel bad for Aviana's teachers because there's no one way and right in life to do things, like one right way to do thing in life. There's more than, like, to say you could only lose weight this way. No, there's 100 ways you could lose weight. Every way works differently for everybody. And why are we teaching our kids that now? And that's, I felt like I had teachers like how already were practicing that before it was enforced in a written down curriculum nowadays. So like teachers shouldn't be enforcing that type of mentality where you can't hold a conversation and you can't have differences and you can't have adult disputes where you're still friends at the end of the conversation and there's multiple right answers. And I just had teachers, and I've always seen that. Like, I've always practiced that as a child, and I had teachers that just didn't like that about me. And, you know, I went up to the front of the geometry class one day and the teacher was teaching a really hard way about how to do the Pythagorean theorem. And everyone was losing it. And I was like, oh, I know an easier way. And they're like, all right, Miss Garcia, go ahead, show us. And I showed them and I was like, aha moment. And he's like, well, if you do it that way on the test, you're going to get marked wrong. And I'm like, why? Why? I mean, it leads to the right answer. So I guess I was that student. And I had that many teachers hate me because I was that student. But I have like 5 teachers that I love and love me and I still contact with every day because they accepted and they loved my open-mindedness and they kind of encouraged it, like, hey, help these people out. You want to help? Go right ahead. Come help me. Come help them. You know, do your thing.
What were their names?
Okay, so Dr. Casanas or Mr. Casanas. I don't know if he's a doctor. I'm sorry. Casanas, for sure. Miss Fernandez, my kindergarten teacher. I still talk to her. Mr. Estevez, I've never talked to him outside of school, but he did a really good job at teaching the outline on how to make notes, and that like rolled into the rest of my career. Mr. Garcia, nobody really from Alabama. I'm sorry. I got a letter grade deduction for speaking Spanish in Alabama in one of my classes, and they called me culturally insensitive. It's a very tough time there. But, God, I can't think of all their names right now, and I know that there's some of them are going to get so mad at me. I know Casanas, Fernandez, Garcia, and I can't think of who else right now. And I'm probably going to think of it on the drive home, so I'm sorry. Don't get mad at me. I can't organize my thoughts right now.
Now, you mentioned something interesting. Alabama. Describe your time in Alabama.
Okay, so my time in Alabama was very life-changing, to say the least. I had to spend 2011 to 2014 there. I went in there with the plan to get my bachelor's degree. I was Mike's girlfriend at the time. And did a lot of phone therapy with his mother and my actual counselor, Mr. Fitzhenley. I don't know if you could count him as a teacher, but he's definitely a life changer for me. Mr. Fitzhenley married Mike and I. And, I went through, not dealing with my dad's... Sorry. Snooze.
Do you need to pump?
No, I could play with it. I didn't bring my pump with me. So Mr. Fitzhenley was my counselor, and I did a lot of phone sessions with him, a lot of phone sessions with Mike's mother, and I got through my bachelor's degree. I broke my knee while I was in Alabama. I was told I was going to limp for the rest of my life. I got into bodybuilding, a lot of discipline, a lot of realization about my wellness and my health, and being more in tune with my body, building more of what my current day passions are. And I had some situations where, my employers would say things like, when do you plan to go back to Cuba? And you have to do something with your hair to fit in with the region more. Anavic, take a look around. If you were in Pakistan, what are they doing there? Well, look at your surroundings and do the same thing here. And, I had a patient whose last name was Hernandez, and she kept talking to her, she wouldn't respond. I finally said something in Spanish, and she flipped out on me in English, and got a full letter grade deduction in that course because I was culturally insensitive. And so I also had a Bosnian friend, love you girl, that this one Christian girl kept bothering her about, like, do you come from a good Christian family? And, are you going to convert to Christianity so you can save your soul for Jesus Christ? And da-da-da. And my Bosnian friend came up to me because she's a little hot-headed and said, Anavic, can you mediate the situation? Because if she asks me to become a Christian one more time, I'm going to beat her face in. And so I went up to the girl and politely, in an HR respective way, said, you need to respect that we all come from different places in the world, and we have our different religions, and it's okay that you are Christian and you're speaking the word of Jesus Christ, and that's good for you, but you have to respect that other people are not going to follow your religion, and let it go, and be more, and respect her personal lifestyle choices. And I went to HR, and HR was like, well, how is she supposed to spread the word of Jesus Christ if she doesn't talk about it? And I'm like, at work, in a medical facility. There's a place and a time on Sunday in church, or you could go door to door if you like. Some religions do that. And do that then. But we're in a medical facility. We're supposed to treat our patients and our staff unbiasedly, regardless of the color of the skin, their sexual orientation, or the religious choices, and work towards one goal, which is patient care. And that was not what was going on in Alabama at all. So the wanting to change people in me was constantly a force, and I just had to learn to just kind of sort of just be defeated in a sense, and just be like, accept that, Anavic, follow what you're preaching. You are who you are. They are who they are. You can't change a town, and it's only temporary. You're gonna go back home to Miami, and just stay in your lane, put your hair up in a bun, and do your job to the best of your ability, and just let it go. I did a lot of mental growth there about being around people with conflicting views and conversations, and just learning when to insert myself or not in the conversation, just respect their views and silently uphold my own. So,
what was your first paying job?
My first paying job was at Rotelli's Italian restaurant. Wait, like on a payroll?
Let's start with under the table.
I used to sell candy bars, and I used to break the vending machines at the schools, and because my arms are so skinny, and stick them in the vending machines and take them out and sell them to you for a discount. That was my first paying job. And then when I was 14 years old, I lied to an Italian restaurant, told them I was 15 or 16. And I was a hostess and a bus girl, and they wanted to give me a raise, and I felt so bad about lying that I was like, how about you don't give me a raise, but I just tell you the truth about my age? I just have to get that off my chest. I'm lying to you. And they decided to keep me, and I did rotellis and then Auntie Anne's pretzels in a Brazilian clothing store. And I was 16. I walked up to a cell phone booth that was the authorized dealership, and they said I had to be 18 to work there. And I was like, why? You operate any heavy machinery or shop objects? Because I've done that before. I got you. And they said, I like your attitude. You start on Saturday. Don't tell anyone you're 16 years old. We'll pay you cash. So I sold cell phones, sold cars, sold jewelry. I wanted to be a broadcaster initially. And I got an associate's in communications, and I switched over to radiology, and I did my major in radiology and minor in communications.
Which one was your favorite job and why?
All right, so I have 2 favorite jobs. One, because it was hard and challenging, and it was like goals. I was the CT MRI supervisor at Jackson South. I got that job here in 2016, and it was a job that everyone said I wasn't going to be able to get. I was 27 years old. I had a bachelor's degree, no experience, could barely handle or operate a CT machine, but it was my goal since I became an X-ray tech to become a CT tech, and not only become a CT tech, but become a CT supervisor so that I had say about patient care. Because when my biological father was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, there was some sort of mistake on his CT reading where they thought his tumor was a kidney stone, and it delayed care, and he died of cancer, and he had so many crappy nurses that they see on his chart that he has multiple myeloma, and they're like, it doesn't matter if he takes his medicine anywhere. He's pretty much a walking dead man, you know? And I was like, that's when I switched from journalism to medical, and I was just like, not my dad, you know, under the name of Albert Torres, that's not going to happen under my watch. And so I was like, I got hired for my administrative abilities and for my abilities to enforce patient care, not because of my clinical experience, you know. And I had a lot of pushback, like, you can't be a supervisor unless you're an expert on working a CT machine. And that's not the case. I became a supervisor. I was very successful at it. My team, my family at Jackson, they were very hard on me, because a 27-year-old with no CT experience coming in to be your supervisor after you've been doing this for 15 or 20 years. I get it, guys. But, you know, Bill and everyone at Jackson had a reason to hire me, and we all finally saw the vision together, and we got it done, and we were a very successful CT team when I left, and everyone was very happy, and I had to leave for personal reasons. And then that leads to my second favorite job, which is now. I have the best managers right now, and I'm fulfilling those personal reasons, and I'm able to be very flexible while inserting some hours of my life doing what I love and making people happy, you know, one person at a time, one interaction at a time, instead of just trying to change the whole experience as a supervisor. You know, I'm a mom now, and I just realize now what my priorities, that I need to put that first. And then trying to help people out, I just need to help them out as the appointments come along, one person at a time, and not try to undertake the entire world and change the entire world at once. You know, I'm just one human being, so I can't put that much pressure on myself anymore.
Okay. So what is it that you do now?
I'm a CT tech now, not a supervisor, and I just do it per diem. So I do it like every Wednesday and every other Saturday. And I have the best bosses, Susan, Mauro, and Claude and all of them, and they're so understanding, and they see and acknowledge the perfectionist in me and the fact that I'm hardworking, that my intentions are always good, and they give me the freedom to do that, and they give me all the trust in the world, and they've always uplifted me not only in my career but in my personal life. So I work for a very good outpatient facility right now that lets me be a CT tech on a per diem basis and give it my all. And they reward that, you know.
Now, this is it's a question based on one of your answers.
Okay.
You said that you went to school for journalism, right?
Yes.
And it was until your dad got sick and you were noticing, you know, the patient care was not where it was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. And that was your catalyst towards you know, making a change. So what do you really want to do?
I mean, what I really want to do now, Anavic present day in this moment, is I just want to be happy, and I want to be a good wife and a good mother. Like, before you're a mom, especially me, because I didn't want any kids. I'm one of those people like, I don't want kids. I can't deal with kids. Like, I only want one kid. My career was like everything. It was like what defined me. I had to like hit my goals. I had to get my degree. I had to do it all because you know what? I grew up being told I was less than, I was never enough, that I could never do what I wanted to do, that I had too much of an attitude, I had too ghetto of a childhood. And so my career goals and choices have always been kind of like well, F you, like I can do what you said I can't do type of ordeal. So, I wanted to be a journalist and I wanted to be a news broadcaster because, I don't know, it came natural to me and I just wanted to be on TV. And my ultimate goal was to report a live hurricane in Miami. Like, I just wanted to just stand in the middle of a hurricane and report on a hurricane, wind blowing my skinny butt across the street, holding on to electrical cables. If I could just do that once, if like WSVN can, just hire me per diem for one hurricane in the 2019 hurricane season, like, sure, I'll die a happy woman, but
We can do that right now.
Let's do it. Like, let's just go, like, next hurricane, let's just go outside and
get a waterproof camera.
Record it, submit it to the news station, hope it goes live, and then that would be great. But it's just like, to me, that's just like, I want to jump out of a plane before I die, or, I want to go to Canada before I die and see the glaciers or whatever. To me, it's just like a one-time goal. So what I want to do in the long term is I just want to be happy and at peace, and I just want to be a good mom. And I want, now that I have a daughter, which was like my greatest fear, like just my daughter to be happy and just to have a good childhood, like have a childhood. And I just feel so confident and so at peace that having Michael as my partner to do that's just going to be so possible. So the reason like I dropped down to per diem at work now is because like I was so focused on chasing goals and proving people wrong that I didn't live like today. Like today is June 26th. It is 10:51 a.m. and when I'm doing this interview, Mike's bothering me about super glue, and that is my life right now. And I'm okay with that because my daughter's healthy, she's home and she's in good hands, and I have that to go home to, and and no one's dying in a hospital, and I don't have midterms to worry about and nothing crazy like that. Like just worry about today, and just like live today. That's what I want to do. Like start living, enjoying today, and I don't want to miss a day or a moment, with my family and my daughter especially because she's growing up way too fast.
What did you do in your spare time?
What do I...
Growing up?
I was going to say like right now, pumping. And meal prepping.
And then leading up to today, like what were the things you did growing up in your spare time?
In my spare time, as a kid, drawing. Very artistic, I guess. I did a lot of drawing, a lot of poem writing. Very creative. When the invent of computers came out, I did a lot of web designing, HTML code writing. I taught it to myself. I can't remember how to do it nowadays, so don't ask me to build you a website. I can't even get my own blog up. Reading. I went through this phase where I really got into cars, and then I read the difference between a piston engine and a rotary engine, and I made a whole notebook about it. I was always very technical, very creative, and then into my high school years and my young adult years, I was into cars, and then I met Mike, and that went into motorcycles and dirt bikes, the beach, the ocean, animals. Always has been, always will be a part of my life. I have a dog, a parrot, saltwater fish tank. Not mine, Michael's, but it's in my house, so it's technically mine. It's coming out of my income. And so, yeah, the beach, environmental things. When I travel, I don't like cities. I like hiking. I like exploring different terrains. I like science. So whatever piques my scientific, creative, technical interests and environmental interests.
Did you stick to groups or individual friends?
I was not a group friend. I never stuck to groups. I won Best Personality, and I know why. And it was because I was a friend to every group. Didn't bother me if you're Jamaican. Didn't bother me if you're a Gothic person. Didn't bother me if you were a nerd. I know there was a kid that had like a social disorder, and everyone kept picking on him, and I didn't care if it made me look uncool. Like, I went up to the guy that was picking on him, and I was like, stop doing that. Are you an idiot? Like, he's already having a hard enough time. And I didn't understand what it was at the time. Like, but I know that there was something off. And what that kid was doing to him was not helping the situation. And I was like, do you want me to hit you? Would you like me to hit you so you can see how you feel? When you get hit, stop hitting him. Like, I was just that type of person. I just stood up for everybody, and I was okay with everyone. And I just didn't like if you were a bully or you're a liar. Like, I used to beat up the bully. I got into a lot of physical fights growing up. I would beat up the bully. Like, if you were the bully, I was coming for you. But besides that, I was cool with everybody. Nobody bothered me.
Can you share one of the stories?
The fights?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to think about which one, because I know this is going to go on the internet. You know what? I'll stick to like the main one that everyone knows about. So there was this, I think, Colombian girl that I grew up just totally, we just did not mesh. From 6th grade, she choked me out in like aftercare or something like that. I actually like passed out, and I thought I died. And she went around gloating for like 2 years after that I tried to choke her, but she wouldn't die. And crazy shit. Now kids kill each other. We used to just talk and hit each other back in the day, but now they actually go through with it nowadays. But a lot of talking that she used to do. And she bullied a lot of people. She wasn't a lot of people's favorites either. And so one day at early release, she decided that she was going to come up to me and just try to yell at me and call me a B word in front of everybody. And my mom was a cafeteria lady that day. So there wasn't anything I was going to do in front of her. That security wasn't going to break up. So I just let her say whatever she had to do and think that she was like belittling me. And then when all the security was gone and there wasn't anyone to stop us after school one day, I went up to her and I said, you want to say those things you said earlier without anyone having the ability to stop what's about to happen? Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Leave me alone. And she turned around and I just punched her in the back of the head, and she turned around and I just kept going at her like Rocky. And I was in 8th grade. I hadn't gone through anger management yet. And my mom made the mistake, or not. I mean, I could always defend myself. I was in kung fu and kickboxing growing up. So I physically knew how to fight, and I beat her ass, for lack of better words. And we both went into the principal's office, and the principal said, Anavic, should she get suspended? And I said, we should both get suspended. I decided to fight her, and I beat her butt. But she's been picking on me forever, and that's why it happened. Whether she lost the fight or not, doesn't matter. She initiated it, and I was just defending myself. I've been dealing with it for 3 years, with her, verbal, achievement of what she was doing to me. So I finally shut her up. So she got a day of suspension, and I got 3 days of suspension, and we came back. And I went up to her and said, so you're going to stop now, right? And she didn't say nothing back. And she never came back to that school after that. She disenrolled and moved away. I don't even know if she came back to South Florida. She completely moved away after that. I know she has kids now and stuff like that from what I've seen on the internet. I don't think we could ever be friends. But yeah, I remember everyone giving me a high five from her bus. From the window when I was we're leaving school that day. And it's just anytime anyone was getting bullied, they hit up Anavic, and Anavic handled it. I don't like bullying. So all 90 something pounds of me soaking wet with my little kung fu lessons, I still got it done.
All right. Yes. How did you meet your partner?
How did I meet Michael? Michael was introduced to me from a best friend, which I call Papo. That's his family name. He's Puerto Rican, and he's in the Coast Guard too, and we grew up since 5th grade together. And Papo just met Mike on duty one night and hit me up on MySpace, which is what, what we used to communicate back in that time, in 2007, and said, I found a perfect guy for you. You're going to marry him. And I said, don't hook me up with no white guy. He's got a cute smile and all, but I have a 2-language minimum, is what I said. And Mike wrote back a very simple message, because he's a very simple guy. He goes, hey, my name's Mike. I'm Italiano, and I'm stationed in Miami, and I'm here to stay. And I was like, oh, nice to meet you, Mike. Nice smile and all, but, you know, it is what it is. So didn't talk to Mike for a while, hung out with Bappo for a little bit. And when Bappo and Mike used to talk a lot on the phone because they were like into their motorcycles at the time, and Bappo just got one, and he like leaned on Mike for his expertise a lot, and you know, have a riding buddy. And they kept talking about me a lot on the phone, and I was like, who do you keep saying my name to? Remember, I had a bad attitude when I was 18 years old while I'm telling the story, okay? Very bad attitude and very closed-minded. Still had a lot of room to grow. And and I'm like, who are you talking to about me? Like, they know me. And he's like, my friend Mike I told you about. And I said, well, give me the phone. Let me talk to Mike so that I could introduce myself formally. And I go, hey, Mike. My name's Anavic. Since you guys are having a conversation about me, like, you know who I am, I thought I should introduce myself. He goes, I know who you are. You're the girl who doesn't like white people. And I was like, I never said I don't like white people. Kind of did. I just don't like being hooked up. And he goes, okay, so write down my number and I'll take you out, and you're not getting hooked up if if we're having this conversation right now. And I'm like, put the phone down, and I don't know, you guys have to hear Mike's voice, especially like 10 years ago. And I was like, what's wrong with his voice? How old is he? And who the fuck does he think he is? He is super saucy. Kind of like it. And he does, that's my boy Mike I keep trying to put you down with. So whatever. So Papa invited me out to ride a motorcycle with him. And he like hit a pothole. I don't know if it was on purpose or not to get me off the back of his. Oh, my boy Mike, he's like so experienced. He should jump on the back of his bike. So jumped on the back of Mike's bike. And we kept doing these riding things. And I kept telling Mike I just wanted to be his friend. Did that thing that one night where he puts his, sitting on the bike and he puts his hand on my thigh. And because I'm straddling from the back, I'm like, why are you touching me, bro? That I said I just want to be friends. And he just kept hanging around, he kept calling, and, you know, sometimes a little, around Thanksgiving, it was a little, you know, ex-girlfriend and me, and got drunk one time, and I was like, bro, you need to pump the brakes, I'm about to block your number. But, and then, you know, my dad got sick, my stepdad, and he kept hanging out with me, and he kept going to the hospital and sitting down and just talking to Albert like a normal human being, not acknowledging the fact that he was sick. Albert fell in love with him, and Albert knew that you couldn't tell Anavic what to do. 18-year-old Anavic cannot tell her what to do, cannot tell her wrong from right. You just had to say, Anavic, there's some choices that have to be made, and when you made up that mind, your mind, come over and let me know what your choices are. And I forgot to mention I was dating my high school sweetheart, some Colombian guy. Totally forgot about him because we had like almost a non-existent relationship towards the end. So he like stopped talking to me. That I was like trying to hook up with one of my other male friends, and his perception was all wrong. And he like stopped talking to me, so I was officially single for a week, even though like he moved to New York when my dad had cancer and just left me on my own to fend for that situation on my own. And Mike was there for that situation. Probably the first time he's hearing the story too. And he went to New York, and I had a lot going on. And I kept telling Mike, bro, you're just a friend, you're just a friend, you're just a friend. And Mike just, well, you need a friend right now. Your dad's really sick, you're in the hospital. And Mike was just that, he was just a friend. And everything was my decision. Like, you know, my ex stopped talking to me. I went to my stepdad and I said, hey, Albert, I think I'm just gonna give the nice guy a try. The nice guy. Gonna give him a try. And he's like, I'm so happy. You don't know how that makes me feel. I know if something happens to me, you're gonna get taken care of now. And everything's gonna be fine now. Indirectly giving Mike his blessing. And God, I wish he could be Aviana today. Because he always wanted a daughter. He bothered me when I was 18 years old to hurry up and get pregnant by Mike. He wanted a granddaughter. And it's like amazing how life happened. I'm like, no, Albert, I'm only 18 years old. I just met this guy, you know? And then I gave him a granddaughter. He just never got to meet her. But yeah, and so I told Mike I was gonna give Mike a try, and Ralph Turner hosted our first date. And we went to like hot import nights because we were into cars, and like we had a hookah and some hummus on Lincoln Road in Miami Beach. And that night I told Mike, I was like, you know, if everything you ever said to me about yourself is true, and you know, you've only had one other girlfriend before me, and you're not a liar, and you're a good guy, like, I think I want to give this a try. And so then we started dating, and it just like catapulted from there.
Wow. How do you feel about Mike?
How do I feel about Mike? He's amazing. I want to kill him sometimes, but don't we all feel that way about our husbands? But he's amazing. I think that with him, I try to push him to perfection and he hits it. And I probably lack in acknowledging that he's hit it. And then I try to push him even further. And then he tries to push back because he's only one human being. And so we probably have that going for one another where like we push each other to do so much in a 24-hour period. And we do it. And then we're like, okay, you can do it. So how about a little bit more? And so then maybe we just exhaust each other sometimes because we're just both such phenomenal people. And I think that we're like polar opposites and we fit for one another perfectly. And he's an amazing father. Like, he's shocked me so much over the last almost 12 years now, where every time I think he's not empathetic, he grows up and gets some empathy. And I think that he's not going to be able to be a dad. He grows up and he becomes a phenomenal dad. And I think that, you know, whatever I always doubted Mike, he's always been able to, dispel those doubts. And I feel like I've always done the same thing with him. And I know that because we had a little bump in the road in 2016. We were 9 years together and I wanted to get a divorce and didn't want to get a divorce. But I felt like something had happened where the only way to resolve the issue was to get a divorce because I'm Latin. And when this happens, divorce has to happen afterwards. Like, that's the way it goes. There's no fixing the issue. And that was my mindset. And I kicked Mike out and I said, if you want this to be fixed, you need to meet me at this place and time and get therapy with me, like talk to someone professionally. And he showed up, and that's when I had to sit down and say, I can't be a hypocrite. You know, I've went and gotten professional help before because I've not been perfect and I've made mistakes before in my life. And I said I needed help, and I got help, and I became a better person for that, getting that help. And now here's Mike, and he's realized he needs to fix himself mentally, and he's willing to do the work. And as his wife, I need to see it through and watch him grow and strengthen this marriage together. And basically, you know, we've just been through it all. Friends dying, dads dying, moves in and out of the state, traveling the world, therapy, there's not enough adjectives to describe Mike. Like, he's just, I was asked the other day, like, if you could spend 24 hours with 3 people uninterrupted, who would they be? And one of them was Mike. And it's like, would you like spend time with him all the time? And I'm like, exactly. Like, 24 hours uninterrupted. I have the best memories of my life come from being with Mike. He's like the most fun, the most charismatic, best conversationalist, best friend, challenges me, makes fun of me, corrects me, because I used to say make fun of me. Until he was like, what are you saying? My first language was Spanish. And believe it or not, from this accent. So yeah, like, not enough adjectives. Like, love Mike to death. Obsessed with him.
Now, where did you get married?
Mike and I got married here at home at the Coral Ridge Yacht Club off of the Intercoastal in Fort Lauderdale on December 27, 2014. 14.
All right. Who decides how the money should be spent?
Oof. I think we both decide how the money should be spent. I think it's a conversation that we have. And that was a problem initially with the marriage, because for 9 years we had separate bank accounts. So Mike was financially stable with the Coast Guard, and between all my student loans and my car loans and constantly working sales jobs and being new in the medical field, I had to work all the time. And that was a part of our first marital issues, was that he didn't understand why I was a workaholic. I wasn't a workaholic because I wanted to be a workaholic. I was a workaholic because I was like this, constantly trying to stay afloat, feeling a sense of responsibility to uphold an image, not have Mike fund any of my financial decisions, trying to be able to help my mother out whenever she needed it. And I think that joining our bank accounts, even though I preached to everyone for 9 years not to do that, I think joining our bank accounts was ultimately the best decision for our marriage, because he was able to see this workflow equals this income for Anavic. And this is our life together, so we have to make it work within this number. And so now there's a lot of back and forth communication as to, can I get this? Can I buy that? I think he asked me more, can I buy this? And I just buy things without asking him. Don't tell him. But I think I'm a little bit more conservative in my spending. Like I spend a lot of $20 items here and there. He spends like $300 on coral yesterday. So my purchases are small, his purchases are huge, so they have to be discussed more in depthly.
All right. How would you describe your relationship?
With who? With Mike. My relationship with Mike is pretty, I was gonna say fluid, but then that's like could be taken in the wrong sexual way. Now in 2019, it's not fluid in that sense at all. We're a monogamous couple. But I don't know. We just wake up and just it's just natural. I feel bad for people who come to me with a relationship issue. It's like you have to try, and I know that everyone has to try in marriage. I know that there's a level of trying, and you have to work in marriage. Because when I went to counseling, someone told me that's been married for 40 years, like you thought you were married, but now you're married. That you're gonna go to counseling because marriage is work. You know, there's going to be times where like you have to try to stay married and like remember and go back to where you started and incorporate that in the new levels of home ownership, bearing a child, job changes, duty station changes and all that stuff. So I just think that every day we just wake up and we make it work. And right now in our life, our relationship is like sort of just naturally working. And our goals and our visions are aligning, and we're very similar. And a lot of people are probably would be shocked at how we are behind closed doors. Because, I don't know, Mike portrays himself as a very quiet person, and I'm like the total opposite of Mike. And then, but behind closed doors, it's like, shut up already. I just want some quietness to myself. I don't want to think about where we're going to retire to in Utah. Are you crazy? That's 6 years from now. So, yeah, our relationship is kind of just natural, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Now, did you both have the same ideas about having children?
Oh, no. Mike and I did not have the same ideas about having children. Mike did not want to have any kids. He didn't even want to get married. He told me on the way to Alabama, I don't know why you're coming. I'm never going to marry you. And so we had very different visions, and being together for over a decade, those visions have kind of evolved and the emotions have evolved. And so no, we did not want to he did not want to have a child. I wanted to have 3, then 2, then 1. Then I was okay with not having any. And then we had that issue. In 2016, I specifically told him I couldn't ever have a child with someone like you. And that kind of hurt him. It was a very mean thing to say at the time. And he got help. And I think that he said something along the lines like, I want to feel that love that you have for someone who is the mother of your child. And I want that to be with you. And I was like, well, you better fix yourself. If that's ever going to happen. So... And so it did, and then we agreed with one, and we planned Aviana out to like the T. I brought an ovulation test to Italy on my birthday, and she was completely planned. And right now, we're only sticking to one, but I'm really scared that he's falling in love with this whole process, and he might force me into having a second one. I really see it like, oh, you're gonna change your mind when she's like off to kindergarten. You're gonna miss this, and you're gonna ask me to do it again. I hope not. Coast Guard pays for vasectomies.
All right, awesome. Now we're about to close up.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. Have you ever told yourself there is something wrong here? And you're like, there's something wrong here.
All the time. I've always told myself there's something wrong here.
Remember the first time you said it?
Probably when I went to counseling, like in high school, anger management, like that was like, you couldn't make me do anything. In order for me to like physically attend counseling, I had to accept the fact that there was something wrong with me and I needed help. So, every girl grows up like like, this guy doesn't like me. What's wrong with me? You know, why am I not as pretty as the other girls? Or why can't he date me like he dates Susie or whatever, benign name. But then like intellectually saying, okay, there's something wrong with me that actually needs fixing was like high school when I started anger management and counseling. And then I went through very many instances every time a life event happened. And I always fell back to counseling.
Do you remember what was the event that made you say there is something wrong here?
I can't remember the event that made me say there was something wrong with me, but I remember the event that made me say there was something wrong in my life. And that event was when I was 11 years old and I told my mom to divorce my dad. That was like the first time that I realized like there's something wrong with my childhood. It's not normal. And then I realized I had a little bit more control over my dad's actions, and I started realizing his game and his illness, because I realized I needed help, you know, because I was talking to him, and it was like I was tired of like babying his suicidal attempts of him being in the hospital, and I finally, I was like, I'm about to say something that's really mean, but I need to say it because like it either like he can't hold me captive anymore. Like he can't keep using me. He doesn't care about me. Like I need to realize he doesn't care about me. If he can verbally kill me off for his addiction and do these things, he only cares about my reaction. So I finally told him, I said, listen, if you're gonna kill yourself, get a gun and do it the correct way and just do it already and leave me alone. You've ruined my entire childhood. Don't call me. Like, I don't want to get another phone call from the hospital. I don't care. I don't care that you're getting another surgery. I don't care what they're doing to you. I don't care if you live or die. Just do it already and leave me and my mom and my sister and everyone alone already. We're done with this, you know? And for a young child to tell their biological father to get a gun and just get it over with and do it already. I mean, the emotional like maturity that I had to be with, because I really understood the consequences of the words that were coming out of my mouth. Like, this guy can hang up the phone and go do that afterwards, and I'm gonna have to live with the fact that I pushed him verbally over the edge. Like, your own daughter's telling your father to do that. But at that point, so much give me from him happened, and no, I'm your dad ever happened, that there was nothing for me to lose anymore. I realized I never had a dad. I just had this guy that was just ruining my life and had no genuine love or interest in my outcome, in my emotions, in my heart. Had no intentions of being a father, that I had to just kind of release myself from his selfish, disgusting game, you know? And people nowadays talk about like suicide and all this stuff, and I don't even talk to them like about it because they don't even know what I went through with the whole suicide thing. And like how I feel about it. I don't ever talk about it. And it's just like, I just feel like it's so selfish. I'm sorry, like some people are like, I feel like it's so selfish. Like, it's not, maybe because they only dealt with that one incident, but I had to deal with it 3-4 times a year. And growing up and visiting him in psych wards as my childhood weekend activity, like, and I was done with it. And so like, I realized at that moment, like, there's something wrong with you, and it's making something wrong with me, and I need to like break this chain between us. Like, I need to just disconnect this relationship because you're not doing anything to help yourself, and you really don't care about me. So why should I care about you? I'm gonna have to just harden up and realize that this is the biological father that I was dealt with, and he's never gonna fulfill his task, you know. And I'm just gonna have to do it on my own. And so then I had to go get help after that. Like, I had to go communicate that to a therapist and say, like, I just said this. What if he dies tomorrow? Did I mess up? Like, did I do everything I was supposed to do? Did I fail as a daughter? Is there some sort of unwritten or invisible responsibility that I'm supposed to fulfill as a daughter that I'm not fulfilling? Because I don't want, like, it to happen and then, like, I live with regret. And then just things always kept happening, and I always had to keep going back to get help and speak to a professional and make sure that, you know, I never got on medication or I never got addicted or, you know, I never did anything negative, you know, so that I could overcome every event that happened in my life, you know, in a healthy way without, you know, addictive properties or, you know, in a crazy event that would hurt other people.
Follow-on question is, you had to harden up after you realized there's something, or you told yourself there's something wrong here, or something wrong with my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you want at that time before that happened?
Before the hardening up or after the hardening up?
After the hardening up. Like, you hardened up because this happened. What did you truly want before you realized or you thought to yourself there's something wrong here?
What I wanted before I realized there was something wrong with me was a regular childhood. You know, parents or dad that loved me, that like had a real connection with me and a real like investment into my future, a real sense of love and compassion for me and my outcome. And I hardened up because I had to just come to terms and realize that those are qualities he doesn't possess and he's never going to possess, that he's just a selfish person, whether it be from mental illness or not. And I'm sorry for the mental illness advocates out there. You can't speak on behalf of my story, but you can't be that mentally ill to watch this human being come into the world as a product of you know, genetically, and this is your daughter, and you just never have at least an ounce of love, just an ounce, to just want to be a better person and care about their well-being and them. So I always wanted that out of him, and I just had to, when I said those things, I realized I don't think it's possible, and I don't think it's ever going to happen. And his existence and his communications with me is just as a painful reminder, time and time again, that my existence to him will never influence him to be a better human being or to be a father to me. And then my existence because of him has made me shunned from my family. So in all aspects, nobody likes me. You know, nobody loves me. Family doesn't care for me because I'm his daughter, and he doesn't care for me even naturally because I'm his daughter. He says he does, and he says he loves me, and he tries to talk to me all the time. But the conversation is always, oh, but I was in the hospital and this happened to me. And it's always this selfish conversation of, but woe me, you know? This is what's going on with me. And especially when I got pregnant and I got Graves' disease and I had such a high-risk pregnancy. And I got a daughter that came out of me, and I felt that connection. I felt that I went to the stars and collected her soul and brought it to earth, and she is mine, and this is my responsibility, and I love her more than my life, and she's given me purpose. Like, I felt that. I just hated him more and disconnected more from him. Like, you didn't get that, dude, back in 1989 when I was born? Like, what happened? Like, not my first steps. Not the first time I said dada, not I love you, not the fact that, you know, nothing has sparked any interest in you loving me and caring a little bit less about yourself and more about me. And I told him that. He doesn't even know my birthday. And he like calls me and he's like, oh, are you going to wish me a happy Father's Day? And I'm like, are you going to remember my birthday? The day that made you a father? Oh, you can't fault me for that. I'm old and I have mental illness and I can't remember your birthday. And I'm like, bro, no, I'm not buying it. You're not that. You don't suffer mental illness like dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that, where you're neurologically degrading and you are incapable of withholding memories. Like, you have chosen to prioritize what memories and thought processes occur in your brain. And I'm not a priority to you. And I had to go through a lot of therapy to realize that. You know, and to realize that can't let that define me, can't let that run my life. I just gotta live for today and make each day after that better, you know, and make sure that it never happens again.
Have you ever told yourself, I don't belong?
Have I ever told myself I don't belong?
At a young age, that first time you told yourself.
At a young age, all the time.
And what was the first one? Let's talk about the first time. And then what was the event?
I feel like with my family, I felt like I don't belong, you know, earliest, I probably just remembering all my cousins playing together and like my grandma taking my sister out to go buy something on Fridays and me being left at home. Just made me realize like I don't belong. I'm the black sheep, not the favorite. It'd be better if I wasn't around so that my dad wouldn't be around and nobody would be inconvenienced by my existence. So I don't belong.
What did you do in order to?
In order to make myself believe I belonged, I always was like the overachiever, like, let me try to find your problem. Let me try to fix it. Let me try to insert myself in your life. Kind of like what I do now. You know, let me try to help you and make you a happier person, and, you know, and that overbearing, you know, overachieving, like, I just want to love on you. I just want to help you. I just want to be with you. Like, you can't push me away type of, you know, you can push me away, but I'm going to show you you need me. I'm there for you type of personality. I didn't have that effect where if you pushed me away, I pushed away. Like, I would try to like make myself needed or wanted, you know, and prove everybody wrong.
In reality, what did you do? What did you want?
I just wanted everyone to just like love me like a child that, you know, it's not my fault. Just love me like a child and don't talk bad about me or my mom, or, you know, or like I can't hang out with certain cousins because I'm too ghetto, or, you know, like just be an adult. And I see that happen to kids nowadays and it hurts my heart for them. And it's just like, these are kids. They don't know anything. They're growing, they're developing. They just need love. You know, it doesn't matter if they're making a mistake or not. It's your responsibility to help them, you know, see the mistake, repair the mistake, and move forward from it and grow from it. And I didn't have anyone. I was always figuring things out on my own. So I've always had the sense that I don't belong, and I've always been, a lot of my, I guess I suffered depression, and I suffered that overachieving depression and anxiety where, like, you know, you're overproductive to kind of like hide it all. And so that's kind of always been my, you know, I need to just do something all the time to feel like I belong, like that I deserve to be here and everyone should love Anavic, you know. That's just been the story of my life.
Have you ever told yourself, or can you recall the first time you told yourself, I'm on my own?
I think I've always felt that I'm on my own, and it's hard to say the first time, because like when you start so young with these incidents, and then you have like so much trauma and your brain is just so foggy, it's like hard to say this is it sometimes. But maybe the night that I told my mom to divorce my dad was probably the first, like, I'm on my own. Like, this guy's not taking care of me. And I don't know, I just had a lot of situations, like my sister leaving, I'm on my own. She left to go live with my grandma. And probably my stepdad dying. I'm not gonna have a dad, I'm on my own, you know? And then maybe like the time that me and Mike almost got a divorce, and realizing like the one partner I had could potentially be gone forever, and everything I thought about my future was gonna go scrapped, and I realized like, shit, I'm on my own, you know? But at least now it's like, this is the only time in my life that I haven't felt that way since I've given birth. I'm not on my own anymore. It's amazing.
Yeah. We're gonna fast forward 100 years from now, 200 years from now. Hopefully this never happens, but
yeah.
We're gonna die. Right?
My biggest fear.
We're all gonna die one day.
Death is my biggest fear.
And remember, repeat the question so that way from what's being said in your eulogy?
Think about this all the time with every action that I do. If I died, what would be said in my eulogy? Like, this is like, death is a real fear for me. Like, I didn't feel like I had purpose before, but I have so much purpose now, and like with my health just not being where I would love it to be, huge fear that I'm not in control of how long I live. So I always think about everything I do today, it has to be, what would happen if I died tomorrow, and what would people say about me? And I feel like if I died tomorrow, people would say she was annoying, but she like was so helpful, and she like did all her research, and she knew a lot, and she had the biggest heart, and she always had the best intentions, and she loved really hard, and she really cared about animals. And Mike, she was so obsessed with Mike. It was really annoying. And she loved her animals, and she loved her daughter, and her daughter had the best mom ever. And you know, and she could have done more if she could get more to get more done, and she would have done it all. Like that was just her, like my personality, and that God, I would hope I'm missed. I feel like I know I will be missed because I get so many random lovely text messages from people all day long, because, you know, my circle knows that I'm there for them, and I'm not there, and I don't need anything back. Like, I don't mind helping people, and I don't need to be repaid to help people. And that's kind of like, I feel like that would be spoken about in my eulogy, how I was just always available, always around, and nothing had to be paid back if you just reached out to me. You know, some people may disagree, but those are the people that have taken advantage of me, and I've kind of just like called them out on it, like, your intentions aren't pure, and so I'm not going to waste my energy, my positive energy on you, because you have none to give back. So I would hope that people say I was very positive and very open-minded and accepting and willing to be there for everyone and anything, and my intentions were always the greatest.
Any parting words to the viewer? Whatever you like. After they see your story.
I feel like in the topic of resilience, there's like a bunch of other stuff I couldn't even touch on, because like we have to do this in an hour and 30 minutes or so. I'm pretty sure like everyone had to pause 100 times to get through my story, but it could go on forever. But it's just, my story is not any worse than anyone else's, or not any better than anyone else's, and we all have our different types of struggles and obstacles and abuse and mental illness and suicide and rape, and God, I'm so glad that, you know, that's never happened to me. Or losing a child, I couldn't imagine that ever happening to me. There's so many things that are bad that could happen in this world, and even though I've had a lot of them happen to me, life's still not that bad. It's still like so amazing. And I try to make the best of every day I wake up, and just make sure that like history doesn't ever repeat itself, and I never use history as an excuse to define the person that I am today. I can't say like, you know, I grew up ghetto and all this stuff happened to me, so I'm just gonna go live in like the streets and like sell weed or whatever. Like, and that's not, and I could easily say that, and everyone would have all the empathy in the world and understanding about it, but it's not the life I want to live. Like, I've always been in control of what I want my life to turn out to be, and I've always fought really, really, really hard for what I wanted, no matter the age, no matter the gender, no matter the educational experience or the occupational experience. I never took no for an answer, and I just went for it. And whenever, you know, I fell and I had a bad time, I got professional help, and I didn't lean on addictive properties, and I didn't lean on harmful behaviors. I went in and I got help, and I acknowledged that I had a problem, and I needed to develop a plan to fix that problem so that I could continue moving forward and propelling myself forward to living a peaceful and happy life without letting the past repeat itself in any way, even inheriting it within my own self. So I can't imagine the worst things that could happen ever happening to me, but I know that I would be able to wake up and overcome them, because we still have to wake up and breathe, like involuntarily. We just have to open our eyes and we have to breathe. How are you going to spend those 24 hours? It's totally up to you. Don't ruin it with negativity. Just try to turn every situation into a positive one. And if your purpose ends up just living to help somebody else out, then do something with it. Like, life is too beautiful and the earth is way too big and gorgeous. I've only seen 6 countries of it, and there's so many more to go for you to just give up. Don't give up. Even if you have to just do it to help others, or just be selfish and get on a plane and just fly around the world, do something and live your best life every single day. Because it's a blessing that you can wake up and breathe and your heart can beat, and some people are not given that option.